Hey friends, Kevin Gehring here, your Sacramento, Stockton area realtor and lender, here with part 2 of the dirty little secret. Now, last week I kind of set up what I was going to talk about, but I did promise you that I was going to show you a rate sheet. Now, here's why this is important. All right, so a lot of people have this misconception that when you call a lender, they have their rate, right? So you call lender A and you say, what is your rate? And I know this because I see calls all the time. People say, what's your rate, right? People shopping around. I still get that quite a bit. So there is no the rate. There's no secret rate. There's no magic rate. And consider this. Almost everybody who does a loan, unless it's what we call a portfolio lender. Portfolio lender is a lender who actually loans you their money and keeps that loan in their house and you pay them back, right? That's a portfolio. But almost all other loans get packaged up and sold out to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, right? They're the ones buying it. So really all these loans are kind of ending up in the same place. So it stands to reason that they're all about the same to start with. And that really is true to a point. Now, where it starts is how much does the bank or the loan officer or who's doing the loan wants to make? And that's what sets the rate. And let me show you that. Let me take you over to a rate sheet. Now, this is an example of a rate sheet. It's not an actual rate sheet. I can't actually show you anybody's specific rate sheet. But when I look up rates for somebody, this is what I'm looking at. And if you look over here on the left-hand side, you're going to see rates that start at 1.999 and go all the way to 3.0. So the question is, what's your rate? It's one of these right here. And I can pick any one of those I want to tell you what the rate is. Now, I'm not going to do that with you, right? That's just not the way I operate. The short answer is, if you say, hey, Kevin, what's the rate right now? I'd say it's 2.75. And I'm going to explain that in just a little bit. And it's right here, 2.755. And it has to do with this column right here. So let me talk to you about this real quick here. So let's just take this right here and we'll take the 2.75. All right. Why did I pick that? Well, if I look at 2.75 as a rate, it has a price, a cost of 0.069%. Now, I'm basing this on a value of $400,000, a loan amount of $320. That gives a loan to value at 80%. I'm doing this as a refinance for somebody with like a credit score of over 700, right? Just an example here, but it's what we're looking at. So based on that loan amount now of $320 at a cost of 0.069%, that means that to get this rate, 2.750, you, the consumer or somebody, has to pay $220 for that rate. All right. Now, you might be thinking, well, shoot, that's fantastic. I'd gladly pay, well, depending on what rates are, $220.80 for that rate. And that's going to give you a payment of $1,306.37. That's the principal and interest payment on a 30-year loan. Okay. So that's what I'm looking at as a rate sheet. Now, but here's the thing, though. People have to get paid. Now, next week, I'm going to talk about fees and junk fees and what is a fee, what isn't a fee, impounds, how to get a good deal, what to cut out so that you are getting your loan amount the lowest, getting the best deal. But for now, I want to talk to you about this because it's what I promised you I was going to talk about. So, looking at this rate sheet, I was taught as a loan officer, the first question that I should ask myself when somebody calls and says, Kevin, what is your rate? My first question should be to myself, how much do I want to get paid? All right. This actual cost is the how much the loan officer gets paid column. We could call it that if we want to. And back in the day when I first started, almost 20 years ago, whatever this column had was really sort of what we would get paid as loan officers. So in other words, I would look for the parentheses and I wouldn't tell you the rate was 2.75. The rate would be 2.875. I could look right there and say, I'm going to make $1,840. Now, back in the day, and I told you even today really consistently when I talk to a lot of people out in the industry, what is the target of what a lot of people want to make? And really they want to make about 1.5%. Well, if you think about that, 1.5%, even 1% of 3,200 is going to be $3,220. You can see that right here. So the idea was back in the day, the higher the rate you sold the consumer, the more money you would make. And I knew loan officers that were out there making 4 or 5 points on a loan. It was crazy. All right. Then we had the market crash. And then legislation came out and said, well, we can't have loan officers out there making money based upon the rate. You have to select your compensation. That gets really complicated. All right. But let me tell you this. When they set up these rules, they did not set them up fairly. Some people have set compensations where they're going to make the same no matter what, and how the rate works is going to be how much you as a consumer get back or how much you pay, and I'm going to get into that in a later segment. But they also left the door open for other people who can still operate the same way we used to operate before. In other words, the higher the rate I sell you, the more money I can make, right? So where does this leave you? Well, just know that the rate is not the rate, and there's always room for negotiation, right? And if you're talking to me, I'm going to give you this whole list of rates. Well, you can have this rate, this one, there's this one. And for some people, it's confusing. It's like, well, Kevin, how come you can offer 7 different rates and everybody else is just one? Well, because I educate you and tell you this is what it is. And this is how it pretty much works. All right, so looking at this rate sheet, let's just say I want to make $1,500 flat rate on the loan. I want to make $1,500. So if you call me up and you said, what is the rate? I could look at 2.875. This in parentheses means I'm going to get it back. The bank's going to make money on this 2.875. I'm going to get $1,850 to do what I want with. I can collect that. I can give some of it back to you if I want. All right, but let's just say you said, well, I don't know, 2.875, that sounds kind of high. Well, I could say, well, how about 2.750, and I'll charge you a fee of $1,500. Right? The $1,500 would go to me and you would get this better rate. This is where points come into play. Most people don't talk about flat rates, they talk about points, right? It makes more sense to most loan officers. It's how they think. They always want a percentage. I think it's better to go flat rate, but that's just me, right? So now look at this rate sheet. Now, so you hear on the radio, all these places, hey, we have rates at 1.99%. And if that's not good enough for you, we'll pay your title, escrow, appraisal, and other fees. All right, I hear that all the time on the radio. How can they do that? Well, it's easy. Do I have a rate at 1.99%? I sure as heck do. Right there, 1.99%. What's the cost on that? You have to pay 4.715 points to get that rate. All right, what is it? You're going to pay $15,000.88 in points plus on top of that compensation fees. All right, so it's there. I could advertise it. I could say it. There it is. Do you want that one? No, you don't want that at all. $15,000 for that? Now, there'd be some math involved. One would be the break even. It might make sense if you could guaranteed promise that you're going to be there for the next 30 years. But, all right, so if you look at this, you can see there is a sweet spot, and this is the sweet spot right here. Right, it's what we call, it's almost par. Par means it's neither a cost nor a rebate. This is rebate down here in parentheses. So it's really where banks want to funnel you in, because you notice it very quickly goes up. So this is almost at no cost. To go up an eighth is going to cost you $2,700. To go up another eighth is another $2,000, another $2,000, another $2,000, another $2,000, like $3,000 there. So and the same way the other way around. So it quickly gets into a rebate of $3,164. Hopefully you follow me on that. Now I want to point out one other thing, because I'm getting a little bit long here, and then, but notice that this rate sheet goes from 199, because that's salesmanship right there, right? You can offer that 1.99 up to 3. And actually, this particular lender, they won't go higher than 3. So what if the person, you need more rebate? You don't get it. Why is that? Why will they only go to 3? Why not 3 1/8? Very simple. Because the refi market has been so hot that if the bank said, okay, we're going to give you 3.125%, and let's just say down here, the rebate is another $2,000, so you get $5,000 rebate on that, right? What happens is people will refi, take the rebate, and then 3, 4, 5 months later, they're refining again. Right? Because maybe rates went down a little bit, they get a little better deal. And so the banks are really losing out bad on this. So right now, they're like this particular lender is saying, we're not going to let you get a rate any higher than 3. For the simple reason is we believe that if you have a rate of 3 or less, you won't refi in the next 6 months or year. But if we let you go to 3, 4, 5%, we know you're going to refinance and we're going to lose all of our money, and we're going to have given out all this rebate. And it takes the bank a while to make this rebate back, so they depend on you doing it. So that is a rate sheet. Hopefully you understood that. And what I want to do next week is tie this in, why this is important with this cost versus rebate and how that really comes into, do you pay points or do you not pay points? And how other lenders or not other lenders, but lenders in general are able to offer these no fee loans. And then spoiler alert, I'll just tell you right now, the way you offer a no fee loan, you just take this rebate, you just bump the rate up so high that there's enough money right here to pay the title and the escrow and the compensation, the underwriting, all these other fees that I want to go over with you. But it doesn't pay them all. There is a, caveat to that. There's a hidden secret, a dirty little secret to that right there. I'm going to tell you the dirty little secret next week about these no cost refi loans that they never tell you on the radio unless you know what you're actually listening to and all the words they're using. You will pick it out. And I'll show you that next week. So, hey, thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions at all, please send me an email, text. All my information's out there at www.kevingohome.com. Take care. Bye.